Right now we are facing the biggest stress, fear, and drug pandemic in human history, spreading like a virus. 98.7% of the human population is anti-clockwise in their aura in their body cells, which means they only repair at night time. They're in corruption, collusion during the daytime, with defective genes and hereditary defective genes. Every human being on Earth has 600 to 6,000 defective genes and live in denial. Just think about that for a moment. Everybody's body cells goes into corruption, coercion, collusion during the daytime, and they all die prematurely from stress-related diseases in every single study done. Only 1.3% of the population is clockwise with a perfect aura in their body cells, in their sixth sense, and can repair every single thing in their biology, in their DNA, with natural selection and a natural order, which means they're natural and organic and make natural selections and not artificial selections, not evolution mutation. Don't depend on grammar, religious political cults, or New Age cults, because they all suffer from stress-related diseases and they all die prematurely and evolve non-stop in the 23rd chromosome and the 24th chromosomes in dormancy. That gives them all their supernatural power, proven with DNA studies done. DNA does not lie. The placebo effect is anti-clockwise on 98.7% of the population with defective genes and heredity in their kids. As declared worldwide, 77% of all American children are now born with chronic diseases and hereditary diseases because their parents live in denial from generation to generation in post-human stage, and the last human being born on Earth that can use their natural process with their genetic memory and their ancestry tools in their DNA was born in 1960 in the outback of Australia. Okay, no human being in Westerner has a 24th chromosome, but you can see it in cellular study research if you look up on Google that you do have 24 chromosomes, but it's in dormancy. You can only use 7 to 15% of your brain with the highest IQ people in the world. Some people can master their mind and their vessel and their human experience and use 100% of their brain. And you know how much difference there is between one of these people and the rest of the world? No, you don't, because you're not qualified to judge. Not when you're trapped in mentality, in a personality with all the tools you develop with. And that's why you all developed and reverse cycle in your aura and you live in denial about the same time. Very few people are going to make it through this as we're going the sixth mass extinction strip in the sixth sense for the sixth time. Mental disorders and defects are going through the roof worldwide and spreading like a virus with the wrong placebo effect anti-clockwise in a massive global delusional state where people live in denial. When I was 5 years old, okay, 1965, I told my mother about the worst moment in her life in 1945, World War II, 15 years before I was born, because it's a gene defect. My ancestry genetic memory is also a gene defect. And my mum was sitting in a cellar with her mum, right, inside a cellar. She was sitting in her mum's arms with bombs outside. And I said to my mum at 5 years old, "Mum, I'm having this terrible nightmare. And it's haunting me, Mum. And I'm sitting in a cellar with you, Mum, and we're shit scared. And there's bombs outside, Mum. Where were we? What happened?" My mum thought I was crazy and didn't tell me the truth. I was only a child. I was only an innocent child at 5 years old, trying to find out what was going on with this nightmare. And it was scaring me. Why did it scare me? Because my mother got bipolar. My mother was a worrywart, full of stress and anxiety. And she got bipolar in 1974. And I've got this worry in my genetic memory that's scaring the living shit out of me. Then I'm rejected by my parents as a freak of nature. Then I go to school to get rejected as well and get picked on all the time. Then I leave school at 12 years old, end up taking drugs to numb myself. I watch half my mates die on heroin, 3 die in my arms. I flatlined with a major drug overdose at 18 years old. And then I was fighting to get off drugs. Then I had an accident that nearly killed me, a near-death experience at 140 kilometers an hour. I should have been dead. Then I got hit by a drunk driver at 21 years old. At 102 miles an hour, the speedo jammed. One of the most horrific accidents you'll ever see. Now, I was a junkie. I went from 74 kilos down to 51. Took drugs to numb myself and had a pathetic habit. Couldn't get off drugs. But when I flatlined at 18, I tried to get off drugs and I couldn't. The car accident in 1981 saved my life. I sat in my bedroom and I was never home because I was a junkie. I was too embarrassed to be home. But I was in shock for 3.5 weeks and sat in my bedroom and stared into space. And it altered me dramatically. I got married with 2 kids and couldn't hold the job down because I had bipolar. It was heredity from my mum. I had stress and anxiety, but I couldn't hold the job down. I started to buy and sell cars. After sitting in my bedroom for 3.5 weeks, I never took drugs ever again. I got married and had kids, and I started to buy and sell cars. The most favourite car in Australia, the XY GTs and all the XY models. Most collectible car in Australia. I got involved in this and I couldn't hold the job down, so I started buying and selling cars. And I did really well, extremely well, better than I ever thought. I created a reputation by word of mouth across the whole country and became one of the biggest part suppliers and car suppliers for original cars, 1 or 2 or 3 owners with logbooks. And it was my passion. I followed my passion. But see, something happened. And that's why I want you to listen carefully. I had stress and anxiety. After I got off drugs at 21 years old after the accident, I spent 3 nights a week in the medical detention centre, only about 700 metres up the road, in Nala Medical Centre. We live just around the corner. I had major panic and anxiety attacks about 3 nights a week. And my first wife had to take me to the medical centre non-stop. Major panic and anxiety attacks. Now, what's funny about this is that my dad, that's 1974, when my mother got bipolar, he was a truckie. And it was completely unacceptable in 1974. Think about this, mental disorders gone from 2% in 1960 to 98% today in biology and DNA. The human condition, we suffer the human condition in our biology and our aura anti-clockwise. Our body cells in corruption collision during the daytime, it can only be at nighttime. 2% mental disorders and defects to 98% today, worldwide. And most people are in denial about it, okay, and turn a blind eye. But they're controlled by the same stress and fear and anxiety with a placebo effect that they're engineered into. And live in a massive global delusional state and can't deal with it. Right? Can't deal with it, can't face it, and too embarrassed to talk about it as well at the same time. Because it's unacceptable, right? Really? Think twice about what I'm about to say to you. Here I am suffering mental disorders and defects, right? With voices in my mind. Suffering non-stop with voices in my mind, right? Because you have the divine power, creation, destruction within yourself. When you believe in the voices inside your mind and you think to yourself all the time, you suffer from stress, fear, and anxiety constantly in a 5-sense world, sitting on a screen all day, over-exaggerating the truth, and only talk about your own opinions. That's all people care about. Their own delusional parasitosis. Their own opinions, trapped so deep into themselves, they do not know what they do anymore because they can't master their own mind and use 100% of their brain. That's a known fact worldwide. They can only 7 to 15% of their brain and eyes to a few people in the world with brain deformity, right? With massive deformity with defective genes and lie to themselves about it at the same time. Going into massive 6 mass extinction, stripping the 6th sense for the 6th time and live in denial. In a 5-sense world and come to every single conclusion with reasoning. And that's nefarious in the mind where the voice of mind tells them to do that. Okay, but their body cells don't lie. DNA is declared the book of life, and DNA doesn't lie, and it proves that everybody else depends on the placebo effect anti-clockwise in a comfort zone. Can't deal with the truth, can't face it, can't handle it neither. Can't communicate with people, a communication breakdown. No one can keep relationships together anymore with any in tune into codependent power because it's gone. They can't use 85 to 93% of the brain. They can't use their 24th chromosome in dormancy. They can't use 32 senses, only 5 sense mentality, but the other 27 senses are dormant. Dimensional thinking, remote view and mental telepathy, ESP, telekinesis, levitation, spoon bending, clock winding, folding space and time with deja vu and a time where time sits still like preserves, into the past and the future. And I knew that at 5 years old when my parents said I was a freak of nature and lied to me. Lied to me. Never told me the truth because I was only a child. So my mother lied to me. And because she lied to me, I ended up with bipolar like she did because it's already in my genes, right? Okay, so I go into medical care centers 3 nights a week. But I buy and sell cars and start traveling. My father couldn't deal with the situation with my mum because he's an atheist. Couldn't hold an intellectual conversation either. Didn't know what love was. My mum did. My mum was a worrywart because of my father and my brothers being atheists. They couldn't hold an intellectual conversation and didn't even know what love was. Just conditional people, right? Just psychological, self-centered, egotistical, self-centered creatures. And you know that when you live with atheists. And you know, I wasn't religious. I went to church or read the Bible neither. I learned things myself the hard way. My father was nothing but a fool. And when I was only 14 years old, he took off on the road because he couldn't deal with my mum. He'd come home to us and say, I don't know what's happening with your mum. She's crazy. Your mother's crazy. She's mental. He couldn't cope with it. So he'd fuck off on the road and leave me posted with as the oldest child. At 14 years old, I had to deal with my mum every day with bipolar. At 14. Because she was a spineless weak coward and said she was crazy and took off on the road. And my brothers behaved the same way. Said she was crazy, didn't care at all. I had to care. I had to care for my mum. I had to drive her to the doctors all the time at 14, 15, 16 years old. You know that? Without a license. Because nobody else was around. So I was forced into that. I remember getting busted by the cops, right? When I first got my license, I lost 48 points when you only got 4 points, right? And the cops felt that sorry for me. They gave me another license, fresh license, right? After they knew what was going on and confirmed it. That I was always running my mum to hospital. The cops felt sorry for me and gave me a fresh license because all the points I'd accumulated was before I got my license. So they took it back off me. But when they heard the story and confirmed it with the doctors and the hospitals, they gave it back to me. Astonishing, right? But I'll tell you something funny. I'm on fucking drugs because I can't cope and taking care of my mum at the same time because my father didn't. So I'm on drugs, fully bloated, right? With a massive addiction. And yet I'm still taking care of my mum because my father fucking couldn't, a low life. Reptilian mentality. Atheist fucking cocksucking low life. Scum of the earth. That designs you like this. Atheist designs you on artificial intelligence with artificial mutation. And that's why you all suffer mental disorders and defects with demons in your mind. And you don't believe in that. That's why you're screwed. Because you don't believe in nothing but yourself. You think ADHD, psychosis, schizophrenia, and bipolar is real? No, it's not. It's demons in the mind, proven with DNA studies. Voices in your mind ultimately decide for extinction. You have the divine power of creation and destruction within yourself and your own placebo effect. Your own placebo effect. Think twice before you come to your final conclusion with reasoning because it's artificial. You haven't got spirituality, you've got mentality. You've got to listen to me carefully, very carefully. I learned things the hard way. So I was flying, buying and selling cars myself, but went to see a doctor with stress and anxiety. Went to see a psychiatrist, got on medication for about 5-6 years. Yet I was buying and selling cars and doing just fine. But I was recommended to see a psychiatrist because everybody recommended me to see a psychiatrist and get a medication. Everyone thought I was crazy. Well, I bought and sold more cars and made more money than anyone else in my family and created more friends and more reputation by word of mouth than they ever dreamed about at the same time. At the same time. So I go and take medication, right? I break it with my first wife. I find my second wife, the first love of my life. In 1992, I was on a drug called Prothidin. Go and Google up Prothidin. You see on Google that 175 milligram tablet can be fatal to anybody. When I was given this drug as a brand new drug, they said it was the safest drug in the world I had insomnia. I could only sleep about 40-50% of the time for two different reasons. The drugs, right? I was on drugs for a long time. I was on methadone. And when you're on methadone, you only go on a night for about 2 hours a night. And I was on that crap, right, for 4 years with a raging habit, a putrid habit. So I barely never slept. And one of the reasons I had psychosis or bipolar or stress and anxiety was because I couldn't sleep, okay? And that gives you psychosis. So that was the primary problem, was my sleeping, right? Not what they thought. But of course, they know better than me, right? So does everybody else in the world. Every psychiatrist knows better than you. Every scientist knows better than you. Oh, they all know better than you, don't they? Oh, yeah, because they're artificial intelligence with leverage mutation. They know better than you when they can only use 15% of their brain. In 1984, at 24 years old, suffering like this, I stamped an engine number in such a way the X-ray machine could not detect it, and went on the mastermind reports. It's the biggest mastermind, right? And one of the biggest masterminds in the world. At 32 years old, okay, Kirsteen Ashley, my second wife, took a drug overdose. She took all my drugs, Prothidin, enough to kill 50 people, and many other medications. She was raped by her dad, and I didn't know, and he knew her for 6 months. And one night I went to bed, she knew that I'd been knocked out cold within 15 minutes on Prothidin. I took 375 milligrams a night. I started with 25 milligrams and built up. They had me on 375 milligrams. And I'd be out like a light in 15 minutes. And I'm telling you, an earthquake or the biggest storm, right, with thunder and lightning in our own backyard wouldn't wake me up, right? People would have to wake me up for about 5 minutes to get any life into me. That's how much I get knocked out cold, and she knew that. She waited till I went to sleep on this drug. Then she took all the medication and crawled into bed, and something woke me up, my instincts, my instinctive behavior. Regardless of how much I was under the drug, I woke up, okay? And in an emergency, I called 000, and they told me that a guy just last night, 18 years old, took one of these tablets and died. And the person on the phone explained to me, look, Kim, this has turned out to be one of the most deadliest drugs in the world through the latest research. And a 75 milligram tablet killed an 18-year-old yesterday who was fit as a fiddle. Kim, I have to be honest with you, you're in a bad situation. We have a paramedic truck around the corner. We're going to send it around immediately in this emergency. But be prepared, Kim, because I've got to tell you, and I've got to be honest, we're going to give a 0% chance of living. If she's taken over 50 of those tablets plus all the other medication, Kim, she has 0% chance of living, but we'll do the best we can. Right at that moment, she flatlined, and they pulled into the driveway nearly at the same time. They rushed inside in Narcana and rushed her to Ipswich Hospital. When she was rushed to Ipswich Hospital with 0% chance of living, 7 doctors and nurses under CCTV in Ipswich Hospital, Kirsteen Ashley, 1992, under CCTV with 7 doctors and nurses have worked on her frantically to save her life, to pump her stomach. She flatlined a second time. When she flatlined, her body lifted 8 inches off the bed from one end to the other with a divine intervention. And she came back to life, not once, not twice, but 3 times. She writes the most powerful poem in 2003, The One and Only. The One and Only. She claims that I was the one that brought her back to life. Now, you wouldn't dream about that, but in that moment, I remember sitting there in a chair, and she was the love of my life. And I remember screaming out inside, not verbally, but inside, like your spirit, right? Your mind, or what you're thinking inside. I remember screaming out saying, God, whatever you do, if you exist out there, if you're there anywhere, take anything away from me, but not her. Take anything you want from me. I don't care, but not her. She's the love of my life. Don't take away from me. And boomfa. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. And she wrote the most powerful poem written in 2003, #1 worldwide for 8 months, and calls it The One and Only. She claims I was the one that brought her back to life. My prayer was answered. My over-concern when I sacrificed everything in my life for her is what brought her back to life. And you wouldn't dream about that, but it's a fact. It's her story. And that's what she was told to write in that poem. Now, what's astonishing about this is that from this moment, I was filthy on this drug, and I was filthy on the fact that I was told it was the safest drug in the world. And I was on 3 tablets a night, man. And I watched her die 4 times, man. And I got told it's one of the most deadliest drugs in the world when I was told it's one of the safest. Which means I was lied to the shithouse, and they never done a proper study on this medication. So there was no approval for this medication with a genuine study. And that's the first time I realized, man, what kind of drugs are we taking that hasn't got an approval? Because when you see something like this with a drug like this, like Prothidin, right? I learned that about Secanols and Turanols and barbiturates the same way. They had no approval at all neither. None. And they killed all my mates. They killed a lot of my mates, barbiturates, back in the 70s. No approval at all. Deemed to be safest drugs at that time too, and killed all my mates. Now I realise the filthy system is disgusting and evil. Now I realise how filthy and low-life the system really is. Right? When I saw this and got told this in hospital, CCTV and peer reports. The most dangerous drug in the world, I was told, is the safest, right? So I worked against the system with all the grain, through the drugs in the toilet, right? Through the psychiatrist in the toilet where he fucking belongs, and every fucking doctor that oversaw my life that recommended this, I threw them all in the bin and worked against the odds. In 2008, in mental health research and DNA, when they tried to find the cure, human mechanism were declared post-human states, 1999, and no one can think instinctively since 1960. No one can use their genetic memory. And mental disorders and DDBX are going through the roof. To 98% today in the aura anti-clockwise, and 77% of their children born with chronic disease, with parasites, with chronic disease and hereditary diseases, because every human being lives in denial. And I know that better than anyone. They follow the system, they follow the drugs, they follow what they're told and the perceived effect that they're clocked into. I stood against the grain. I cured the human condition with bipolar, stress and anxiety, panic disorders, the whole lot. And it wasn't with fucking psychiatrist medication, I can tell you that. I worked against the fucking system. Worked against my own belief system and everything I was engineered into. I knew they were filthy low-life reptilians and scum of the world. When they'd done something like this, and my wife died for 4 times, and I got told something like this, I knew the system was fucking filthy. Disgusting, low-life scum of the world. Engineered on reverse psychology to dumbing people down. They can only use 7 to 15% of their brain when they're born with the aura clockwise, and a child can mastermind a computer game between 3 and 7 and respond 7 times faster than anyone with a high IQ. And I maintained my natural abilities with my natural selection in life. I became the biggest mastermind on the front page of paper in 1992 at the same time as King Vice and 17 current affairs shows as a mastermind loopholes the laws of manipulation and unraveled the whole goddamn system. Became the most wanted criminal in the underground world in the Star Jam inquiry. And I'm arrested with 113 people across the country by the biggest think tank in the world in the Star Jam inquiry, by the Federal Police and the National Crime Authority, and proved that they were full of crap and got them for corruption, coercion, collusion, so they shut the case down for treasoning because they're all designed reverse psychology with court jargon. And I identified court jargon on manipulation and how it works, right, on extortion through the tax department and the governments with your body cells going corruption, collusion when you go to school. When a child's a genius and is clockwise and can use 100% of his abilities with mental telepathy and ESP, remote viewing, telekinesis, levitation, spoon and clockwinding, and false space and time with deja vu, to predict the future and prevent what's going to happen, he can mastermind a computer game between 3 and 7 and respond 7 times faster than an adult with the highest IQ people in the world. Then he goes to school to be mentally institutionalized with voice of mind. Then he gets dumb and down so he can earn 15% of his brain with IQ and artificial intelligence and the grammar. But then he can't use his natural abilities, and I learned that the hard way. That they're all wrong and liars. All engineered and programmed to suffer mental disorder and defects going through the roof. Getting young all the time, declared by FDA. Lie all the time. Depend on artificial intelligence and artificial mutation and lie non-stop, and all lies come out of their fucking mouth. They're all lies in this world. In 2008, I had a major heart attack with 3 stents fitted. Right? Major heart attack with 3 stents fitted. I grew brand new artists around and took known medication. I'm supposed to take 5 medications for the rest of my life. Told them to shove it up their fucking ass. Worked against the grain. They told me I'd have to take 5 medications for the rest of my life and stop smoking. Never stopped smoking in my fucking life. Never took the medication. Told them to shove it up their ass. Then I grew brand new arteries. Then they found my DNA that cured the human condition that's going to save humanity. In 2008, the biggest study ever done. I'm the first cab of the rank in the biggest study ever done with DNA to preserve DNA with genetic memory and a genetic process. Cured bipolar, which was uncurable. Grow brand new arteries around my stents. Died and flatlined in 2012 to clinically dead for the 3rd time for 23 minutes. Paralysed my neck down, told I'd never walk again, got up and fucking walked out and worked against the grain. When they said I could never walk again, I thought, no fucking way am I going to listen to you. And it took me 45 minutes to move every limb in my body and got it and walked out. In DNA studies done 3.5 years later, solid evidence, I can preserve my DNA with altercations and transformation in my DNA with genetic memory, bipolar, brand new arteries around my stents, cancer, I cured cancer several times, and paralysed my neck down, paralysed, major stroke, paralysed my neck down, told never walk in, got up and walked down in 45 minutes, altered my DNA with genetic memory. And I know I've worked against the grain with every single thing. I don't believe in the bullshit I get told in this world. I work against the grain. Then God developed the most powerful confirmation on earth and chose me and said he put me through this to prove that my DNA is the most authentic DNA in the world in the biggest study ever done. Because I work against the grain and refuse to believe what you believe in. I'm not program engineered and you're placebo effect. You're anti-clockwise and you do not know what you do. I do. With the most powerful confirmation with DNA study ever done. I work against the grain, which means God gives me the power, divine power to command nature. So you might want to listen to what I say and learn to practice what I preach, because I teach the resurrection humanity to go back into primal state with the book Freedom by Jim McGill, held by 16,000 top scholars in the world, the Holy Grail of Life, DNA, the Book of Life, DNA, genetic memory, ancestral genetic tools. When I breathe and program the Holy Breath of Life, with the most powerful confirmation on earth and DNA study done. DNA doesn't lie. I am the one that comes with the resurrection to protect the elect with the most authentic details and the most powerful confirmation on earth. Whether you believe it or not, that's up to you, not my problem. Your placebo effect anti-clockwise in your aura, and you can only 7 to 10% of your brain. I can use 100% in the biggest mastermind reports by the biggest thinker in the world with the most powerful DNA on earth to alter, because I believe that God gives us a God-given gift to do that. And I have the most powerful confirmation on earth. I sat down in 2016 with 2 top bowlers, 2 of the biggest think tanks in the world, 2 of the biggest professors in the world, in a secret meeting. And they said, Kim, 34-year study, 16 years of DNA, you're one of a kind. You are the one that leads society with the most authentic DNA in the world that can change the circumstances to go in a new transformation, a new era where we preserve DNA. You see, I know how to create heaven and earth with the most positive fields that you have no idea of, because you're trapped inside your mind and can only use your aura 1 to 5%. Mine's clockwise, and I can use it 99%. Mine's clockwise, not anti-clockwise. So I'm the real truth, and everybody else is a liar. And I work against every single social media platform and every mouthpiece and every self-proclaimed nutcase that's got no fucking idea what they're doing. Think twice before you come to your final conclusion, because I'm the most righteous, authentic human being on earth with DNA studies done. The most authentic, the most righteous.